first of all, the first question is, why the cloud? Why is the cloud important? And IDC is actually forecasting that the cloud will be a $40 billion industry in the next 2 years. It's growing at 25% CAGR each and every year. That's massive growth. To put it into context, the regular software industry, traditional software, is growing at 4%. So you see that most software today is moving into the cloud. Today, some other trendy terms for the cloud are Web 2.0, software as a service, platform as a service. It also encompasses utility computing. So a lot of different names, but in essence, the key takeaway for this group is it's just a better way to deliver applications and computing power over the internet. So pretty straightforward. Many of you, as Brevard mentioned, have accessed the cloud, I'm sure. Consumer services, all on the internet, that's the cloud. We're familiar with the cloud. How many people have consumer email that they get, either Gmail or Hotmail or local? Okay, so we got a lot of cloud users today. So no need to be afraid of the cloud. How many businesses think that they're using the cloud? That would be interesting context for this. Raise them high. Wow, about 30%. This is good. Actually, I thought it was going to be a little bit lower. It is a new trend. It's growing. Primarily today, it's been about large companies using the cloud as a way to kind of manage their business, and we'll talk about that. Small businesses are moving to the cloud. And so it is a trend, as we see over the next few years, that more and more businesses will be moving to the cloud. And so what I wanted to do is talk a little bit about the cloud landscape. And there's essentially 4 areas of applications and computing that are moving to these large data centers offsite and delivered over the internet. And so we kind of bucket them roughly in 4 areas. So you have productivity applications and services, functional applications and services, task-based applications and services, and this is kind of a new category. And then you have the core infrastructure. So this is your grid computing, your cloud computing, et cetera. Let me talk a little bit about each one real quick, just so we're all grounded. Productivity, that's where 90% of information workers and businesses operate today. Most familiar business application out there is Office. About 200 million users worldwide are on Office as a client application. And what's really interesting is Microsoft is now moving that all to the cloud with a new offering called Office 365, and I think we'll have a little more information about that here shortly. But there's obviously other players. When we talk about productivity, we actually think about it in 3 categories. The first category is email. So think about communications. 90% of businesses actually are using email today as well. So there's a high correlation between Office and email. And aside from cash flow, communications is really the lifeblood of your business. So making sure that you have the best communications available is kind of core to this. And most people are still using email as that primary communications vehicle. So most of those today are delivered through the cloud. Some people are on-premise, but it's roughly about 30% of small businesses are on-premise, and a slightly higher number for large businesses. But this will be shifting to the cloud over the next few years. Google also has an offering: Gmail, Google Docs, et cetera. And then there's other providers that do content and real-time collaboration. So the other 2 areas of the cloud. So for productivity, so you have Cisco with WebEx doing kind of online conferencing, real-time communications, as well as Box.net and Dropbox for content sharing and collaboration. The next area is around functional applications. So think of things like CRM, financing, accounting applications. There's a number of established players here. QuickBooks, how many people use QuickBooks? Yeah, pretty good number. Yeah, it's the most popular accounting package. QuickBooks is now moving online, so that's good. Salesforce.com, a pure web-based solution for managing customers and growing your sales. Again, online in the cloud. Microsoft obviously has a product as well. Xero is an interesting new startup based out of New Zealand. It's only web-based, and it's this incredible kind of clean cloud platform for accounting. So if you're looking for an accounting package, there's some good options there. There's this whole new category of task-based cloud applications. So even getting, we'll talk about this a little bit more in the next slide, but how do you really take almost any task that you do today and move that to the cloud? And so expense report management. There's this new cloud service called Expensify, simplifying the way that you manage your expense reports. So a really cool application to kind of help you take these mundane tasks that are happening locally today, not a lot of collaboration, done in isolation, costly to manage and serve, and we're moving those up to the cloud. And then infrastructure as well. So I'm going to talk about applications moving to the cloud primarily because that's where 60% of the cloud activity will be happening over the next few years according to Gartner. And so, but there's a lot happening from an infrastructure level. How do you develop applications and save total cost of ownership by moving your servers to a cloud offering? Microsoft just did a study. You can actually save 80% of your infrastructure costs by moving to a cloud platform. So tremendous cost savings on the server side, but we're going to talk mostly about the applications. So next slide really is around, what are the benefits of going to the cloud? So we kind of have a common understanding, applications delivered over the internet, lots of activity happening today, but why? What's the benefit? What does it mean for you, and why should you take advantage of it? Well, the first thing is really about accessibility. And so when we think about cloud services, it's really an incredible thing. I'll just tell you a little story from my own experience. So I just left Microsoft about 4 months ago, starting a cloud software company. And one of the most amazing things is I left on August 2nd, and I was at Microsoft, and we obviously build software, or Microsoft builds software. And they have a great IT infrastructure, 100,000 employees. They spend almost $1 billion on their IT infrastructure. The next day I was at a startup with 5 people, and I was on the exact same platform that Microsoft uses because we adopted Office 365. Now think about that. Millions and millions of dollars worth of software that are only available to the largest businesses out there. I could go the next day, I could turn it on for $6 a month. And that was a really powerful thing because we've got the world's best email, we're collaborating, we're sharing information real time, we're having real-time meetings for $6 a month. That's incredible. So it's really about one of the things that cloud does is it just truly flattens the world. So here you are in Trinidad. You're not, it's a nice market, it's a healthy market, but it's not the most, it's not the largest market. And accessibility is probably a huge issue for you. How do you know whether you're getting the best software, the best services? How are you really taking advantage of all that is out there in some of these larger markets? Well, the cloud really helps flatten that. It makes any kind of software available to you in your local market. Second benefit is around driving revenue. So how do you really kind of increase your top line? Super important in business, obviously. It's the primary reason we're all here. And think about, how many, actually another interesting question, how many people have a CRM application to help them manage their customers, grow their sales? Any CRM out there? 1, 2, 3. 3 out of about, what do we got, about 80 people? About 10%. It's actually, the adoption rate's about 30% in the US, so we're a little underrepresented here, but it's an amazing, amazing thing to be able to have your whole team be able to see your customers, collaborate, increase your sales. The other area is costs. So kind of helping out with the bottom line. The cost savings are actually quite tremendous. If you think about it, I'll just go back to email and productivity. There was a report by the Radicati Group that the average user spends 52 hours a year sorting through spam email. And the cost is quite high. It's about $3,000 for the average information worker. So if you think about how much time you're spent with viruses that affect 30% of users, 30% of business owners, spam, having to recheck email because it's not synced to your mobile device, all the things that we're doing today's day and age, people are stuck on email from the 90s. We all have kind of web-based email, likely, and it's very costly to maintain and manage. And so how can you remove a lot of the cost by moving to the cloud and getting on a more efficient system? If you have an on-premise server, you're likely spending tens of thousands of dollars managing either Lotus Notes or Microsoft Exchange. All that goes away. So you've got hard costs that you can just take it right out of the equation by moving to the cloud. And then finally, there's agility. So really how do you stay competitive? How do you stay ahead of the competition? And as people move to the cloud, if you're not there, you're going to be left behind. And how do you really kind of unleash the productivity and the agility with which you can respond to the market? We have a customer, actually, in the States. He's a service provider. And he wanted a way where he could more quickly service his customers in the field. So we built him a cloud-based offering for just a few $100s to help him basically better manage, schedule, and service the customers that he had out in his local market. So think about how you can be more responsive. Okay, so 3 points here. And it really comes down to how do you choose the right kind of cloud provider? Obviously, price, features, and functionality are top of the list. I left those off. I thought it was important to talk about a couple other things that a lot of people don't think about when they think about how do I even start to think about getting to the cloud? One of those is around data security and access. So how do you know that your data is secure? And how do you know you're going to be able to get to your data if there's a problem? Or, even more, if you're going to move to another cloud provider, can you actually move that data? So a couple of things to ask yourself are, is it an ISO certified data hosting facility? Is this cloud provider, have they been around a while? How many customers do they have? Do they let me take my data with me? These are all key questions that you want to ask, because if you're not, one of the core considerations is, is it secure? Can I get to it? You might not be able to switch providers, or you might not be able to get to your data if you switch. So really important that you think about security and access. The second point is really around getting there. Cloud services are, it's just that. It's software as a service. And so one of the things that, it's not like, it's not just you turn it on and you go. If you have to move your business there, you have to think about, are they going to support you? Are there local consultants that can help you? There's a lot of considerations that you have to think about as you move your systems online. And so making sure that there's help for that, there's an ecosystem of partners and consultants is really, really important. Then the third area is, again, this isn't just turnkey, you turn it on, you forget it. Consumer services are like that for sure, but on the business side, you want to make sure that, what's the support look like? Is there an extra cost? Is it 24/7? Is it phone? Is it email? There's a lot of questions that you have. And we have a couple cloud providers. Some are really good. Some are really not so good. And so when you think about, there's a good selection of cloud providers out there. Think about, what is the service that they're going to give me? Is it local support? Is it not? How, all those considerations, very, very important. A lot of people just assume because it's in the cloud, it's automatically like you just don't have to do anything. But reality is, service is very, very important.
My main reason for using cloud services is because I want to be able to be as productive as I can from anywhere. Right now, I came to Trinidad yesterday, and I can still work. I just bring my laptop, and I have access to all of my documents. I have access to all my software. And even if my laptop gets fried or lost, I can always get online and continue working, and it's absolutely essential for me. The thing about cloud services is that you basically have three structures. You have infrastructure as a service, as Todd has spoken about, and infrastructure is the core servers. The biggest provider for anybody is Amazon's web services. And the beautiful thing about Amazon is that they have a plan that anybody can use. If you use 5 gigs, they give you 5 gigs of bandwidth and 5 gigs of storage free. So in theory, you can literally run your business up until you pass, the 5 gig threshold and not pay a dime. That's actually what I did until I passed that, and and then they pay you, they charge you per usage. So every megabyte or gigabyte that you go over, that's when they bill it for you. And actually, the application that I built is a cloud application also. All you need is a browser, an internet connection, and you can upload your images. You send your client a link, and they get 4 images side by side, and they can give it a quick thumbs up or a thumbs down on the ones that they like. They can leave a comment,
In the area of cloud computing, we hear all of the good news, and so what we've been doing over the years, and I say years, is we've been trying to work with businesses to demystify the cloud. And I say demystify because there are some harsh realities that you have to look at when considering the cloud. Some of us who have and work in organizations where we have to deal with regulatory policies, we also have to deal with good governance issues, legislation is an issue. There is a specific route that one needs to consider before one gets into the cloud. They've put it in 5 stages. Now, we've had collaboration over the years in all of these stages. And the first is what we would call server virtualization. So imagine that you're working in an organization and the IT costs is somewhat high, it's somewhat complicated. And it's normally the first port of call where we're looking at, okay, costs. How do we consolidate all of the servers that we have in that organization? How do we reduce costs? It's normally an area that is great news for the CFO because when you go to the CFO, you can actually talk about reducing costs, and they love to hear reducing costs. So word of advice, do not allow your CFO to drive your cloud strategy because they may want to move everything into the public cloud. When entering the cloud environment, our experiences has been the issue of security is of paramount importance. The information, what sort of services should I be making available in the cloud? What sort of data should I be putting out in the cloud? What risk does that pose to my organization? What risk does it pose to my customer? These are all things one needs to consider. Control is another issue as well. For instance, the further you go along the continuum in the stages, you are actually, there's a perceived that risk of you giving up control. So for instance, a lot of businesses that we've worked with in this space prefer to start off in the virtualization and distributed virtualization, because what it means is that they have actually created their own little cloud within the organization, and they still do have quite a bit of control over their data, over their policies, over their processes, and of course security as well. So for a lot of the organization, virtualization is the first step, because it's like I'm just about to get my feet wet before I take the big plunge, and a lot of lessons can be learned in the space of virtualization. The third screen, which is the mobile computer, internet usage on the third screen will surpass internet usage on the laptop or desktop computer. So in reality, what that means is if you're servicing retail, business type, consumer type markets, you definitely need to have a strategy where you can interact with those markets via the mobile phone. So really, really exciting, this space. A lot of what Todd and the rest of the team was speaking about is because it's driven by the proliferation of the mobile devices. And when I say mobile devices, I'm talking about the iPads, the Galaxy Tabs, the iPhone, the Droid phones. The key message would be, of course, is if you are servicing, that I want to leave you with, if you are servicing consumers, consumer market, you definitely need to have a public cloud strategy, and that is, pretty much the mobile apps. So, everybody, they're saying there's an app for that. There's going to be an app for everything.
On-premise at Microsoft, we see the future of cloud in your organizations as being a hybrid environment where you'd probably continue along with some of the on-premise applications and marry it to the cloud offerings. So on-premise, to match what we have above, we have the products that you are most familiar with, SQL Server, Windows Server with Hyper-V. If you're looking at private clouds, we have our Hyper-V solutions, Microsoft Office System Center to manage all of our environments. And that's only private. So these are the stack of solutions that you'd be looking at if you're looking at private cloud offerings. And overlaying all of this, you have common tools to manage your identity access management, virtualization. How do we manage virtualization from private cloud to public cloud offerings? The management of all of your IT solutions out there, and core development. So if it is you're accustomed to developing solutions or modules with Visual Studio at this point, you could use that same developer stack to develop for the clouds as well. And then we have Microsoft Dynamics CRM Online. So I know I see a couple of faces here who actually use Microsoft Dynamics CRM, right? And this is another option that you could look at for your customer relationship management suite. With Windows Intune, this is where you get to manage all of your pieces out there through the cloud, through a cloud offering. All right, so what we've covered extensively, right, is through all of the cloud offerings we have and a wide range of solutions that we have available to you now on the cloud. You can be looking at between either the public cloud or the private cloud or on-premise solutions. Take a step back and relook. How are you managing unified communications today? What is going into it? What do we plan for the future? What are we doing in terms of business intelligence? Are we really leveraging the most out of all of the data repositories that we have? Or could we do much more for our organizations, making them more productive? Enterprise content management with our SharePoint services, collaboration, and enterprise search. So again, it's not a one-size-fits-all, depending on your organization and to what extent you use some of the solutions that you have there. You will have an ideal scenario that could take you straight to the cloud while still maintaining some on-premise applications or a mix of both. And Microsoft Dynamics CRM Online, again, instant online access. Keep in mind that with all of our cloud offerings, we are looking at geo-redundancy. How do we ensure for disaster recovery that our data is replicated at different geographic locations. What is the availability? When you're selecting your cloud provider, make sure you ask them what is the SLAs that comes with that cloud. So with Microsoft, we can guarantee you 99.9% uptime with our cloud offerings or money back guarantee.